Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Telegraph Herald, More Than the Score. I'm your host, Steve Ortman. Alongside me this week, the return of Jim Leitner, and tons of stuff to get to this week. Lots going on this past week, and we're going to start with the tri-state area losing one of the great coaches in Tom Jenk Jr.
For sure. Tom Jenk Jr. Coached at Dyersville Beckman baseball for 42 seasons, and he's one of the winningest coaches in the country with more than 1,000 victories. Also won 5 state championships, took the Blazers to state 17 times. But I think when you think of Tom Jenk Jr., those numbers are all great, but I think a lot of people, when they remember him, they'll remember him as the person that he was. Such a positive influence on so many kids, not only on the baseball diamond, but in the classroom. He was the kind of guy who just helped you believe in yourself more than anything else. He always talked about how baseball is a game of failure, where if you fail 7 out of 10 times, you're still a great baseball player. And he always used baseball as a way to teach life lessons to his players. He did such a remarkable job, and I don't know how he did it half the time, but he got kids to believe in themselves. And there were times when his baseball teams probably shouldn't have been that good, but he got them to believe, and they accomplished great things. So, and what's really remarkable as well is, he's not just a treasure to the Beckman community, the entire Dubuque County. You see people from Cascade and Western Dubuque and even Dubuque who are touched by him, and so he's going to be greatly missed. And one of the things that he also liked to say is, when he talked to his teams each year, he talked about, let's win that last game of the season. And I think it's kind of fitting that this time around he won the last game of his season. The Beckman Blazers won the Class 2A state championship in July for him. He was able to make it down there despite his illness, and it was a very special moment.
Sure, and obviously it meant a lot to the players throughout the years. And days after Beckman won that state championship in July, seniors Sam Stelkin and Riley LeGrand came into the office here. We shot an episode of More in the Score. They talked about what it meant to win that state championship for their ailing coach. So let's throw it to that footage and take a look.
It's just the best feeling in the world, just to go out there and do it for someone that it actually means something to them. It meant the world to Jenk for us to get that championship, and just to actually go out and do it, there's no better feeling.
Yeah, it was, a very emotional time for, I think, all of us, kind of being able to, after the dog pile, pointing up to Jenk and kind of saying, we did this for you, and having him point back at us. It was just kind of a very emotional game, and just the ending, the way it ended. Just kind of storybook the way it ended. You can't really write that up.
Well, Jim, so many events going on this past weekend to kind of break down as quickly as we can. We'll start with the Iowa State cross-country meet down in Fort Dodge this past Saturday. Dubuque Wahlert girls capture a 5th Class 3A state championship. Freshman Gabby Moran led the way. She placed 3rd overall in 1844. Also finishing for the Golden Eagles, senior Grace Herber in 1905, senior Kaylee Osterberger in 1913, as well as senior Emma Earls in 1957, and junior Gracie Long in 2001. Golden Eagles had this goal set out for them, and they accomplished it. They weren't really sure what they were going to get out of Gabby, but boy, did she come and make an impact for these Golden Eagles right away. They capture a state championship, great end of the year for them, but some of the other girls' teams had some great finishes
as well. Yeah, it was a remarkable year for cross country in Dubuque. Of the 6 teams in our city, 5 of them qualified for the state meet in Fort Dodge, and they didn't just qualify, they did some damage while they were down there. Dubuque Senior had one of the best finishes, tied for the best finish in program history by taking 2nd in Class 4A. That hadn't been done since 1980. Louis Fisher's group did a remarkable job all year long, led by Mia Rampton. They're the team that I think at the beginning of the year they were kind of down in the rankings. I don't think anybody really expected a lot of them, but they just won. They were always at the top of each meet that they ran, and just 2 spots behind them in 4th place was Hempstead. Hempstead finished 2nd in the state last year, and they were 4th this year. So I think they're they're really establishing themselves as a quality program, and that's something that we're seeing across the board here in Dubuque. That at the 3A and 4A levels, Dubuque schools are up there with the elite in the state.
And a lot of success on the boys' side as well. Dubuque Hempstead, led by senior Addison Cobb, they finished runner-up in 4A. That's their best finish in program history. Dubuque senior boys took 8th, and the Bellevue boys finished runner-up as well. And this Hempstead team is going to be bringing back a lot of talent, and they feel like they have a shot at getting up to that level once again next season.
Yeah, I think a thing that really helps a lot of the Dubuque schools is they do a lot of training on hills. If you see these guys and girls out during the summer months, they're running hills, and then when they get to the season, they get to the meets, it feels like they're almost running on straightaways the whole time because they're so used to running on hills. But, that's been a big key to the cross-country success for people in Dubuque.
Yeah, and turning away from cross-country, volleyball, getting right to volleyball. 3 area teams going to the state tournament. We'll start Dyersville Beckman. 3-1 upset over Davenport Assumption just one day after the news of the death of Tom Jenk Jr., and obviously that was a motivational win for them.
For sure, yeah, that's something that, we talked about his influence in baseball, but actually, he was a guy who walked the halls at Beckman as a teacher, and that infectious personality spread to a lot of people, and I know that the Beckman players were really excited to play for him, and they wanted to win for him.
Yep, and Dubuque Hempstead, 3-0 win over Iowa City West in the regional final. They're going back to the state tournament. As well as Dubuque Wahlert, they picked up a 3-0 win over North Scott in their regional final. They are going back to the state tournament to defend their Class 4A state championship. I actually caught up with senior Anna Sherman after the win over North Scott, and here's what she had to say about the Golden Eagles going back to state.
It was great to get this win tonight. Last game on our home court, especially for the seniors. We put in a lot of work, and just to see everyone develop, and finally we're at this point in the season and we're getting everything done. And I think we're looking really strong heading into state, so we're all very excited.
Yep, defending champs, going back. Talk about that goal. I'm sure you guys really badly wanted to get back to that level this year.
Yeah, we all knew how great it felt and how much pride we had going back. So we don't want to let everybody down, and we want to do this for our coach and our team and for each other.
Now, 3-0 sweep over North Scott today. That's the 7th straight postseason sweep for this program. Talk about you guys just kind of bringing things up a level in the postseason.
Yeah, we've always kind of tended to do that. Last year at state, we didn't take any losses, and I think that at this time in the season is really where we're fired up and ready to go. And I think we sort of become a different team almost when the postseason comes because everything's on the line now.
Yep. Can teams down there expect the best out of Wahlert, the defending champs? Safe to say.
Yes, they can.
And finally, we can turn our attention to football. The Cascade Cougars opened up the Class 2A playoffs last week. They're second ranked in the state. They picked up an impressive 49-21 victory over West Liberty. Running back Austin Lawrence rushed for more than 250 yards and 3 touchdowns. Cougars, very impressive. And now, coming up this Friday night, state quarterfinal at home against LaPorte City Union, the team they had to rally to beat 28-21 2 weeks ago to win the district championships. So with these teams seeing each other just 2 weeks ago, you know that they're going to be really finding ways to try to pull off another victory and move on to the state semifinals in the Unidome next weekend.
Yeah, and that was a game that game actually went down to the final minutes. 2 weeks ago, Union at Cascade. So, that's a game that could have gone either way 2 weeks ago. So, it's going to be just the same, Friday night in Cascade. And hopefully you're warm enough and you've got enough Halloween sugar candy and to build up that fat reserves to keep you warm. So it'll be another cold one, I'm sure.
Yeah, I was able to catch up with Austin Lawrence after the victory over West Liberty. Here's what he had to say about the win and getting another shot at Union.
Our offense came out and played great tonight. Our line really just dominated everyone, so it made it easy for me, Gibbs, and Colby, and Jackson. And our defense played great too, but let up a couple of big plays, but besides those, they played great, stopped them.
Yeah, talk about that offensive line a little bit more. It's got to be great to see those big wide holes open for you there.
Oh yeah, tonight they really just absolutely dominated. Everything was open, and then, receivers, tight ends, they blocked good too. Everyone just did their jobs tonight.
Was there any kind of chip on your guys' shoulder just knowing that, maybe there's a question mark of coming out a little slow, not following up on that great regular season? You guys didn't seem to show it right away.
Yeah, I mean, last week against Union, we made a ton of mistakes. A lot of mistakes, did a lot of stuff wrong. And then, at practice, we just really cleaned it up, and we knew we needed to come out tonight and do everything right and not mess up. And that's pretty much what we did.
Yep, you mentioned Union. You're going to see them again next week in state quarterfinal.
I know.
Second time in 3 weeks. What's it going to take to get by them again?
We just got to come out like we did tonight, not make mistakes, not give up those big plays, and shut them down. Defense wins games.
And last but not least, we have state swimming this weekend in Marshalltown. We have 19 swims from the city of Dubuque, or schools in Dubuque, who will be participating down there in Marshalltown. Probably a handful of girls with the opportunity to make the podium too. So it should be a very exciting afternoon in Marshalltown.
All right. Well, Jim will have all that coverage for you this weekend. That's going to do it for this week's edition of Telegraph Herald More Than the Score. I'm your host, Steve Ortman, alongside Jim Leitner. We'll see you next week.